Hello, hobby friends, and welcome to today's episode of Hobby Tutorials. Today, we're going to talk about how to find eBay sold comps. Before we get into the episode, guys, just please click on that like and subscribe button. Going to help to grow the network. Thank you so much and enjoy today's episode. Take care, guys.
All right, folks. So let's dive right in to the topic of today's tutorial, which is eBay sold comps. This you can see already. I'm sharing my screen. We have the eBay homepage, and I'm going to start off by picking probably one of the most iconic sports cards in the market right now, which is the 1993 SP Derek Jeter. I've searched for this already, as you can tell, so it's going to come right up. But I'm going to backpedal from this real quick, and I want to touch on all the items you see on the side. So the search tool, by far and away, is going to be your best friend. And what I mean by that is you have a lot of options on the side that I'm about to delve into, but it's really important that you understand that the search tool is going to be the tool that actually gets you what you want in the best and most efficient way. So what do I mean by that? So if I click on just 1993 SP Jeter, you're going to see my search results here on the right. And you're going to get a little bit of everything on this search. You're going to get BGS product. You're going to get PSA product. You're going to get raw cards. You're going to get unopened boxes and packs, right? You're going to get a whole range of items that come up. Not necessarily a bad thing, right? If you want to do an overall perspective on your collectible, but to get the true value of your card, you're going to have to dig in a little bit more. Now, in practice, in theory, these tools here on the left that have been supplied by obviously eBay for you to fine tune your search are indeed very good. But here is the problem with them. They're only as good as the person that posted the item. So if the person that posted the item didn't go into detail on the post and put down that the product is PSA or BGS, or if it's graded 9, then these filters won't work accurately. What I mean to say is you'll only get the items that the poster actually put this in there. So if I click on PSA, there's 230 items that come up currently, right? That's not to say there's only 230 items available on eBay. There might be a lot more. You're only going to see whoever selected PSA in their criteria during the sale, listing the sale, the item. So same thing with the grades. A lot of people leave this blank. Now, if you were coming here and you were clicking on PSA, for instance, and you click on 8, when you look at active items, it's telling you up here on the top that you have 58 results that are available to you. We're going to compare that number later when I actually put it into the search criteria. But just to let you know, this in practice on the left is fantastic, but it is flawed, not because of eBay, of course. It's flawed because of it's at the mercy of the poster. So keep that in mind, please. Let's touch real quick on the top, right? Since we already have this search result in. You have all listings currently highlighted, but you also have other options. If you want to fine tune and only look at PSA 8 auctions that accept offers from you, you can click on that. You also have auction only. If you want to bid and wait, you have that option. Here are some of the current ones available. And they show you the time left, the exact time that it'll end, the bids, the shipping price, etc. You also have buy it now. If you don't want to wait, you just want the item, you have several options available to you. It even tells you how many people are watching the item. So typically items that have a hot price tend to have a lot of people watching. Sometimes it's people that have a high price and other sellers are watching as well. That's a whole other topic for a whole other episode. But point is, buy it now shows you all of those options. You also have the sorting tool. The sorting tool gives you, a few options, but to me, the ones that are most important for the collectibles world would be time ending soonest, of course, where you have this one that seems to be the one that looks like it ends in 1 hour 19 minutes today at 1:30. Doing this right now, Friday afternoon, 9:18. So you have just a few hours left on this one. Another one that I use a lot is price plus shipping highest first. So this also shows you what are the highest price items available out there. But again, I'm specifically on buy it now. If I change it to all listings, this criteria changed from 51 to 58, and it looks like a lot came up. So that's kind of a quick 101 here. Now let's get into the main topic of today's tutorial, which is comp prices. Now, again, the search criteria is your best friend. And I'm going to show you now how I would search for it. I wouldn't just put in 1993 SP Derek Jeter because and rely on this on the left. I would actually put in a little bit more. In this case, I would put in PSA 8 on top of that. So it's important to note you don't want to put too much information in the search tool, but you don't want to limit either. You have to find middle ground. I've always found middle ground to be the year, something specific about the card. For instance, if it's chrome or Tiffany, right, versus traditional tops, I might not write tops. I write Tiffany. That way I get specifically Tiffany items that come up. The name, of course, is key. Full name, especially if it's a common name. And then, of course, the grade and the grading company. I won't put just 8 in there because I'll get SGC and BGS. If I'm looking for a PSA 8, I put in PSA 8. But I wouldn't add too much more than that. Like I won't put RC or rookie. A lot of people don't put that in their listings. So you already know a 93 Jeter PSA 8 is a rookie. Why add the word rookie in there? You're just going to limit your search criteria. Put in the important details. You want an 8. You want the SP card, and you want the Jeter. Put that in and move on. So here we go. We click on that, and now your criteria, your search criteria comes up with 79. 79 results. You notice before we had quite a few more. Now think about this. For instance, you have 79 versus when I used the filters before. I believe it was somewhere in the, I think it was 58 that came up before. So you're limiting yourself from 21 other opportunities. And granted, they may not be specific to what you want. It might be like this massive card lot you see on the screen, or a BGS card that, the title, put some sort of clever verbiage that makes you, look at it. In this case, potential PSA crossover question mark or something like that, right? Doesn't matter, but you have that fine line of fuel and maximize your options available to you. Or you might see something that you really like a 2-3 card lot that catches your eye, and that you rather maybe invest in that, right? So this is how I would view it. Now, the most important piece to getting your comps is going to be on that left side. I'm passing all this criteria that I told you that limits you. I just don't like it. If you do, it's there, go for it. But I'm covered in the search bar. But the one that you absolutely want to become best friends with is scroll all the way down and to the left under show only, you have sold. It's going to also check off completed automatically. That is completely normal. So click on sold, and there we go. Now you have all your sold listings that come up. In this case, all listings are showing 160 results for the Jeter. Right now I have price versus shipping as my search criteria. So you're seeing that the biggest, the results that are coming up are quite pricey, but there's reasons behind that, and I'll touch on that right now. Again, this isn't a perfect science. You have to read the title and even in some cases the details of the auction to understand why there's a big disparity on the price. But in this case, the 1993 SPG that you're seeing here isn't an 8, it's an 8.5. The person here put 8.9, and you see that a lot with PSA, and particularly with the 0.5, the half points, because quite frankly, I'm putting my collector hat on. I'm not sitting there chomping at the bit looking for a 6.5. So, and a lot of the people that own these cards realize that. So what they'll put is 6 and 7 maybe at the end of their auction. That way, anybody who's investing, who's looking to buy a 6 or a 7 would also take a look at their 6.5 and maybe willing to spend a little bit more or a little bit less on a card that sits right in the middle for their personal collection. This is what this person did, and it came up under the PSA 8 search criteria that I put in as a result. So again, looking at the sales, the glaring difference in the search here is going to be the fact that the number is highlighted in green, which indicates what the final value is. Now there is an asterisk. You're seeing one right in front of you now, the top one. This is a best offer number. So this is basically that the poster, the person who listed this item had $17.99 as their price, but he or she accepted the best offer. In a future tutorial, I'm going to show you how to actually see the price that this person paid for this item. But it's important to note here that under conventional, just looking at this search criteria, you're not going to be able to see that. But there is third-party websites out there that make it easy for you to see that and get true price comparisons on the card that you're interested in understanding value. You're also going to see, because again, I have the price plus shipping as the sorting tool. You're going to see occasionally lots come up. In this case, the second highest one came up was a lot of 3 sold on June 28th for $1,600. It's actually a pretty good price considering you have 3 PSA 8 Derek Jeter SPs. And apparently an image of the person taking a picture with a cell phone on the foil. Neither here nor there. But now you move down and you have another 8.5 that sold for $1,300. Again, it came up because, as you see here, 8/9 looks mint. That's why it came up under your 8 criteria. Can't use that as a number for your, in this example, PSA 8 Jeter. You keep on scrolling, you see some best offers were taken. Again, slash lines are best offers. Future tutorial will explain what that number actually is. Keep on scrolling. Keep on scrolling. You're going to see more of these best offers. And we get to one of the first items here where it actually sold for that price. There's no slash line. And this was sold on August 24th by one of the bigger consigners in the hobby, Probstein. We have another one down here in PWCC. This was more traditional, but you have 3 solid comparisons right here for the SP8 Jeter in August, and July 28th. Sold for $740, $736.66, and $721. So in terms of true value, in terms of highest to lowest, this would be your starting point. You're looking for an item that didn't have the best value slash on it, that showed bids, and that showed a final sale price. This meets all that criteria. And of course, the right grade and the right item. It's not a lot. It doesn't have an additional card. Sometimes people will throw in like some other card that's a hard sell, but it's also the same player. Like a 98 or something, tops card, just to kind of flare things up a little bit. These are traditional, based on title, based on picture, 1 card, PSA 8 Derek Jeter, and you have comps. So this is a good gauge. Now there's another asterisk to this, and this is why I intentionally picked the Jeter, because it kind of covers all the bases of this tutorial. What's that? It's market volatility. And a card like Derek Jeter, specifically the 93 SP, it is one of the most popular cards in all of the hobby. If you look at the top 10 list, it's almost always there on the all-time top 10 list. With that being said, you have to take things, with a grain of salt in terms of pricing on this card. So you wouldn't only look at price plus highest, as a barometer. You would also look, most importantly, at the ended recently. On the ended recently, now things changed quite a bit. Now you're looking at auctions that ended, in this case, because I'm recording this on the 18th, yesterday. And what you notice is that the price has actually declined quite a bit on this card, as the last 3 auctions, all are PWCC cards, sold for $571, $571, and $520. So that's a big difference from the 700 and change you were seeing in early August and late July from the sort from before. Another thing to note on this is that you're noticing a big disparity on 3 auctions that ended at the same exact time. Why is that? Well, here's the reason why. Just at face value, just looking at this quickly, you're going to notice that the two F571 are the newer slabs, as we call them, PSA holders. They have the higher serial number that's in the fours. These are all going to be things I talk about in future tutorials, but you have the higher serial number, but you also have the newer slab, which is indicated by this center icon here, the hologram piece right here. So down here, the $520 PSA 8 is actually an older slab. If you see this here, nothing here, and a serial number that starts with 04, which is definitely an early generation slab. So it's not to say it's not an 8 by any means. I'm not suggesting that. I know that there's a lot of hobby preference, out there, that people like the newer slabs, that they're not, for some people, they just like them. They're nicer. There's a multitude of reasons why people are picking sometimes a newer slab versus the older. But as a result, with the Jeter, you see around a 10% gap in price. You're going to see, in this case, about $51 gap in price. So you're going to see that kind of range as well, depending on the card. But don't be shocked if a PSA 8 shows a gap in price just based on that one factor alone. For some of you collectors out there that might have that have an old slab and just stored it away for many years and want to sell, I would gravitate toward looking at the pictures on your when you do these searches, and look for some of the older slabs, because in many cases you're going to get the lower value, the slightly lower value for your card versus what you get for the lighthouse type newer slabs. So as you scroll down here on the search criteria, you're going to see some other stuff. Again, you need to weed out. This isn't a perfect science. You're going to need to weed out some of these. You have a best offer accepted here. And again, you're not going to see the actual true number on this. You have another one here that came up under PSA, but it really is, as you can tell, it's not a PSA. It's a BGS 8. It came up because the person wrote the word PSA and has the number 8. So of course it's going to come up. This is just somebody trying to, obviously generate more visibility to the card, and put in some other things in there, suggesting that perhaps this card can grade a 9. So that's why this came up here. You also have here, this is a lot of 2 cards that came up with $1,300 best offer accepted. And as you scroll down the list on items that ended most recently, you're going to see some other numbers here. A 649 one bid, best offer accepted at 685, and so on and so forth. You see a lot of different numbers and a lot of other cards that come up that perhaps don't meet the criteria. Again, you have to pick what you're most comfortable with. You can go with the search tools on the left and do the filters if you want. I personally like this. I like to keep as many options open in terms of finding my cards, and in this case, finding the comp. So with active listings as well as sold listings, I really I don't add anything more than what you saw there for any card or collectible that I'm looking for. Just to wrap up on the Jeter, you're seeing the high 5s again. My assessment right now was, if I was to try to sell a Jeter tomorrow, I'm probably looking at somewhere in the neighborhood of about $575 to maybe $600 for that Jeter. Now, you have to keep in mind that I'm speaking specifically to selling the item on eBay. This is something I'll probably delve into again on future videos a little bit more, but you run into a lot of folks that they see this number, let's say they focus in on that 620 and say, I want $620, and they go on Facebook and one of the baseball card groups and ask for $620. Truth be told, I think that's not a good practice, because at the end of the day, perhaps a beginning collector might pay that price, or just somebody who really wants the card pays that price. But a lot of the folks that are selling themselves or are well versed on how eBay works is going to realize that there is a roughly 13 to 14% savings for this person going on Facebook and selling it there, because if your product sells at if your item sells at $600 on eBay, there's a 10% roughly final value fee, and then there's also roughly a 3.5% PayPal fee that goes on top of that. So if you're going on there asking for 600, you might get less potential buyers as a result. It's not to say you have to give the full 13% back. Again, that's subject to interpretation. I'm not telling anybody how to sell their item, but just keep in mind that a lot of folks are wising up or understand how this works. So they're going to Facebook not to buy it at 600. They're looking for at least some value there. I personally would not sell at the exact comp price that I see at the time of sale on eBay. I would definitely go less as a result. So just things to keep in mind, guys. Again, on comps. And I want to touch on a couple of other examples outside of this hobby. Again, the Jeter really touches on a lot of what I wanted to discuss today. But let's clear this out and let's go into the world of comics a little bit and look at, this is coins. We'll go into coins first, then we'll go into comics. Here is the 2020 Silver American Eagle, an MS-70. And this just came up already as a sold listing because I already had those, the criteria checked off. As you scroll down, you'll see again, I have that checked off right here on sold and completed. So this is already taken care of. And again, you need to weed out, whatever you have in your hand versus what you're seeing here. So there's numbers all over the place. Some of them are a lot of multiple coins. You have here the MS-70 First Strike. You also have the emergency issue here, which commanded a much higher premium. And then there's some that just have some, there's some politically motivated, comps there, like the different slabs, if you will, with Trump and Biden, et cetera. There's all sorts of different ones. There's actually some here that have I believe it's autographs as well on them. So that's all going to change the price. What you need to do is make sure you're always comparing apples to apples. What is the issue of the silver coin that you have in hand, and the grade? So when you look at that, make sure. And if you need to add additional criteria to really weed this out, so be it. It's not a perfect science. It's more suggestions on my part to find that fine line in terms of how much you write, because the more you write, the more you limit. But of course, if you don't write enough, you're going to get a lot of other items that you're going to need to weed through. So find your middle ground and rely more on the search criteria is my biggest suggestion versus the column on the left. One other very important thing to note here as we're going through all this is the fact that you need to, going back to the apples to apples concept, you need to make sure you're not looking at this price and assuming that your what we would call raw version of your collectible is viewed at the same price. And what I mean by that is we can go back, for instance, to let's go back to the Jeter. In the case of the Jeter, the price of a PSA 8 is drastically different, right, than its raw counterpart. And why is that? Any raw item, especially in the world of cards, is going to have a glaring range, because that is subject to a complete interpretation of what that item will grade. None of us are PSA, BGS, or SGC. We're not going to sit there and say, a lot of people say that they assume that the card's a 7 or an 8 or a 6 or a 5, but it very well may not be, right? So raw is much harder to sell as a result. So when you're looking at comps and you see if somebody got on their raw Jeter $188 in this example, but I'll bet you if I scroll down, you're going to see some crazy numbers higher and lower than that. It's a lot of it is depending on the reputation of the person selling. Here's one for 149. Here's two raw ones for 410. You're going to have a wide range of pricing. I believe I saw one the other day that was like sitting around 400 and change, a raw Jeter. Trying to see if it comes up here. Here's one for 199. There's a bunch of Topps Project. There's one for 125. Raw is a lot more complicated. And with the slabs, it's a lot easier because you can always refer to the slab, and the card inside the slab is always going to be subject to interpretation as well. But at least you can hang on the fact that, look, the card has been graded by a professional authenticator as a 7 or as an 8, and you know that there is a much less a smaller gap, a smaller scope, if you will, onto what the lows and the highs of that card can be as a result of that grade. With raw, it is really hard. I would definitely not suggest any beginners to try to delve too much into buying raw, unless you have a very well trained eye, because again, you're going also on a picture in this case. You're not seeing the card face to face. So it can get really tricky, and especially tricky on a card like this Jeter. That foil is very tricky. And it's a high population card. It gets very hard to get to understand the grades on cards like the SP. So the same could be said about the coin that I just showed you earlier. Let's delve into comics real quick. And you see here, the example that I used is a graded comic. Now the standard really is what's called CGC. And in this example, you're seeing Amazing Spider-Man 129, which is quite famous for the first appearance of the Punisher. Very sought after comic book, very popular comic book. And you're seeing there some examples of what the CGC came out. The same thing would happen here, by the way, on the left. If you click on 9.6, you'll get filtered. But I kind of left it in this example as this. And if you really wanted specifically like a 9.6, I wouldn't click on this. I would just write it up here and then see what comes up. But for this tutorial, I'm going to leave things as is. I'm going to leave it also as end recently, but you can also shift over to the price highest and see what the highest examples are as well. As a matter of fact, I'm going to leave it here. And you're going to notice that that you're going to have several examples here, so you need to weed through them. These highest examples are actually very pricey because, for instance, with this one here at $5,000, this is an autograph copy, right? So again, you got to make sure you're comparing apples to apples. If you have a 9.6, let's call it the traditional. This is also a signed one. But yeah, you have to make sure when you're looking at this, for instance, like this 9.4, 3,100 as a buy it now, that might be a better gauge as to, what a more traditional version of it is. If you have a 9.4, again, raw, very complicated. There's so many factors that go into grading comic books, and I won't bore you with that on this particular tutorial, but just know that there's a lot that goes into it. And especially I think in comics more so than cards, there's a lot that goes into the grading process. So if you're gonna try to sell something raw on eBay, make sure you're taking some very good pictures. Make sure you try to be as accurate as possible in your description. And understand that there is a wide gap because there's a huge trust factor going into this. If you're somebody that has a crazy high rating and show that you've sold comic books in the past, you probably tend to get buyers bidding on that more because there's a confidence that you have a history of selling and people are happy with what they received. If you have, you're new to the game, and if I clicked on your profile and I see that, last time you sold something was a couple weeks ago and it was, a bicycle helmet, I'm not going to be exactly too confident on buying from you, a $3,000 comic book potentially. So all this gets factored into decisions. My personal recommendation, I'm not telling you what to do, but my personal recommendation would be if you have something this iconic, whether it's a card or a comic or a coin, you want to get a true value that you think it's worth the condition, you really feel like you have a mint condition, then you really should be looking at grading it. And there'll be future tutorials on how to grade your collectibles. So that's I'm gonna kind of leave things there. There's obviously the same holds true to anything. If you're looking at Pokemon, for instance, the same thing. PSA grades those. Depending on the grade, those cards go higher. There's variations to those cards. There's all these factors, but the key takeaways from this is that you learn to use this button right here, the sold. You learn how to filter up top. Um, you learn the difference between the best offer accepted number, that you don't confuse that for your actual comps, and also understand the variations of what you're looking at, if it's autographed, if it's not autographed, etc. Um, that's the most important part. Then take anywhere from 5 to 10 examples of prices and average them out. That's the best way to go about this. Make sure you try to average out the number, and then you'll get a true read for what your collectible is worth. Also factor in if you're selling on eBay versus third-party auctions or social media. So I hope this tutorial was helpful for you guys. If you did like it, please click the like button and subscribe. And you can always reach out to me. You saw on the ticker on the bottom my website, hobbynetworkgroup.com. Send me a message or an email, and I'll be happy to answer any questions you guys have. So hope you guys enjoyed the video, and we'll talk soon. Bye.
Thanks for watching today's episode, guys. Before you go, real quick, if you could click that like button and that subscribe button for me, I will greatly appreciate it, guys. It's just going to help grow the hobby networking group, and I promise I'm going to keep on bringing that awesome content your way. I'll be watching those comments. Let me know what you guys want, and I will do my best to deliver, guys. Thank you so much. Very humble for your time. Very appreciative. Go on hobbynetworkgroup.com. You'll see we're on Twitter. We are on Instagram. Very soon on Facebook, as well as podcasts to come super soon. And I'll share those links on the website. Thanks again, guys, and have a great day. Take care.